Good morning and welcome to 10 minutes at 10, which is not at 10 because we're a little early. So today we're going to be talking about recurring costs and contracts and how to try and maximise our profit and minimise our profit leaks in those two areas. So typically, one of the things we see as accountants in almost every new client we take on, and indeed, in fact, with existing clients where we go back and we have to review costs on a regular basis, is things like subscriptions, IT costs and training costs are often those kind of recurring one-off or monthly subscriptions for things like lynda.com or Dropbox or Google Ads or things like that. There'll be things that recur on a monthly basis that you set because you're using it at the time and then you forget about it months later. So quite often we can get some really quick wins where we review these particular areas, these three areas of subscriptions, training and IT costs, and check to see whether you're actually using any of those or all of those items in those brackets. So we think that 80% of people will find 2 to 3 services that they have no longer using and they've probably forgotten about. And that often equates, if they're sort of 20 to 30 pounds a time, that often equates to about 100 pounds a month. In some cases, we've found enough IT costs or wasted subscriptions to actually cover our entire accountancy bill. So that's really worth thinking about. Diarise it and look at least every 3 to 6 months to see whether you've subscribed to anything that you've forgotten about or you're not using. So cancel anything that you've not used in the last 90 days and look at it once and think, what could you remove? What could you get rid of? What don't you use anymore? Then look at it again and look at it with a slightly different hat on. And this time look at it, instead of thinking, what could I remove? Look at it as, if I had to remove £100 worth of costs because I want that cash in my pocket, not in their pocket, which ones would I get rid of? So look at it as though, you know, what you should remove because you're not using or you don't need anymore, and what you could remove if that money was to go directly from their pocket to your pocket. It changes your perspective about how you feel on the value of these items.
It's basically a want versus a need.
Yeah.
To see it as I want to remove this and to see it as I need to remove this. It's a much more focused approach. And actually you'll find you get a different result with each perspective.
Yeah. And quite often there's things that people have subscribed to, and I've got a couple in mind, for example, that I've subscribed to because I know I want to look at it. I subscribed to it a few months ago because I know it would be useful for my business, but I haven't had time to look at it again. So that cash is being paid for a subscription that I'm not using, but I know my business would value from it. So I either need to set time aside to go and look at that and to decide whether or not I'm going to use that resource. In my case, it's to learning subscriptions, or do I not need it? But at the moment, that money is going out to them and it's not going into my pocket. Now, is that really a smart use of that money? Possibly not. But why haven't I cancelled it? Well, one reason is that these were both launch offers. So I'm paying far less now than I would do if I cancelled and I resubscribed. So in that instance, there is a logic behind a profit value in holding on to that subscription until I've had a chance to look at it. But what I need to do is set time aside in my diary to actually look at those things and decide whether or not I'm going to use them, because they'll just drift on otherwise. A bit like those unused gym memberships when you start off in January and realise 12 months later you've been twice and it's cost you,
you stop getting value for money, and then all of a sudden it's just wasted, essentially. So it's instant profit leak when you've got any of these items where you're just not using them.
Yeah, and so just cancel.
And the best thing about subscriptions as well is they're profit, but they're instant cash as well, because 9 times out of 10 they're paid on direct debit, which goes out straight away. So it also makes managing cash just that little bit easier if you've got less subscriptions coming out.
So if you're using Xero or QuickBooks, then you can take your subscriptions, your IT and your training costs, account codes, dump them down into Excel, and then use the traffic light system. So mark them red if you don't need it, and then cancel it immediately. That's 100% profit leak, and that cash is going to come straight back to you in your pocket, or to your business in your pocket. If it's an orange one, this is where you're not sure. You might use it, you can't subscribe again at the same price. Give it 90 days, but diarise a 90-day review and then come back to it and look at it again.
Yeah.
And if it's green, it's essential, it adds value, that's perfectly fine. But review again in 3 months' time. So set a diary event to do a management accounts review and a costs review every 3 months to make sure you stay on top of this and keep that money in your pocket, not in your unwanted subscriptions pocket.
And make sure you take a note if you've already delayed it by 3 months, because if you delay it again, it just starts getting out of control. So keep a little note, keep a little record. And then importantly, on the next part, what we should also do is shop around for our better costs on long-term contracts. So these are ones where items such as utilities, insurances, phones, any sort of agreement that we have in place, any sort of long-term contracts which we do have in place. Now, there is virtually always a better deal somewhere else, just as long as you review it. If you don't review it, it obviously just rolls over. But the reality of the situation,
and that's expensive, isn't it? It's really costly when it rolls over.
But you can virtually always shop around for a better price. There's a little bit of effort involved with actually just switch it off. There is a little bit of effort in terms of making sure you're in the rhythm of searching for it and actually reviewing for better prices. So it's a little bit fiddly, but it is really important, because actually if you just save, say, £33 per contract, you only need to save on a few contracts and all of a sudden you've got £100 a month in your pocket. So it makes a really big difference. If you are quite busy, do you have a virtual assistant who can do it for you? So think of that. Cost savings, time savings, really, really useful. And always think, is the money better off in your pocket? Because this is the main part. Bear in mind, any additional cost which you don't need to incur is essentially money down the drain, especially if you're getting the same service.
Yeah, and just on the point you raised about a VA, VAs are quite good because they often deal with this kind of thing for other clients as well. So they may have better knowledge of what's available in the marketplace in terms of looking at utilities, insurance and phones. Now, there are quite often in local areas, there are specialist consultants who focus purely on getting you better deals on these types of long-term contracts. So these are also worth Googling and see if there's one in your area.
Yeah, makes a big, big difference. And also in long-term contracts, there are leaks in your personal life as well. So if you've got utilities, and which most people do.
If you have your own house or flat,
if you have your own house or you're renting, yeah, of course you will. You have your utilities. Now, the important part about this one is if you're paying too much on your domestic utilities and you happen to work from home, remember, if you're charging for work from home expenses, this is going to impact your business as well. So it's good to make savings in your personal life. It makes a difference to your business. So if you've heard of them, there is a lovely website called lookaftermybills.com. Now, these featured on Dragon's Den, and it was one of the best deals ever made in Dragon's Den history. Every Dragon wanted it, and they got the highest return for the lowest equity giveaway. So they're really, really popular in terms of the Dragons. And actually, as a service, they're absolutely amazing.
Really.
Yeah. So essentially, for anyone who doesn't know what it is, it's a free service, and it also switches you on your annual renewal date, and it puts you onto the best deal for your utilities. Now, the good thing about it is it only switches you to providers who are reliable, so ones with good reviews. Doesn't put you on anyone who's horrible, got a nasty review. And because of the way the system works, they don't take payouts off these utility companies, essentially, to get them higher on the list. They just give you the best deal with the best provider available.
So they earn their money based on commission for helping you switch as an agent, but you still get the best commercial or the best domestic deal that's available in your area at that time, based on your historic usage. So it does all the work for you so that you don't flip over and end up paying an unfavourable rate. So well worth doing, and that works for both gas and electricity. I suspect in the long term they'll move towards telephones and some of the other longer term contracts. But that's called lookaftermybills.com. So although it's a .com, it's still a UK site. So. Yeah,
really, really useful.
But yes, definitely worth looking into. So that's it from us today. That's our 10 minutes at 10 a.m. Talking about how to reduce costs in your business. And we'll see you again on Monday for more cost reductions. We'll speak to you soon. Bye.
Bye. And the dog decides to cozy down in the beanbag.
Well,
He knows when it's ended.